true paranormal story.
Nobody's ever gonna believe this. What the heck did I just see? Started seeing ghosts when I was only 8 years old. I saw that boy disappear.
This isn't real. Welcome to the Raker'z Dozen. Welcome to the Raker'z Dozen, a true paranormal story podcast. Today's episode has two stories. The bed is shaking and kicking the cans. Things are getting a little creepier and creepier with my experiences. And now that I'm a little older and finally have my own place, I quickly learned they, meaning the spirits, follow me wherever I live. What's different about this story is up until this point of my life, all the paranormal things were happening directly to me. And this experience changed that. My girlfriend who moved in with me, who never experienced any paranormal activity, became the target of the spirits. And they wanted to make sure that she knew they were there. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And just as a reminder, if you have a story that you'd like to share, please email me at therakersdozen@gmail.com. All right, now let's get into it. This story takes place in 2007 in Fullerton, California, while living in an apartment off Highland Avenue. Everything that you could think of was literally across the street where I live. Retail shops, restaurants, Costco, movie theaters. Super convenient, and I loved living there. And the apartment complex we lived in did give off some weird vibes, but it didn't bother me. I've experienced paranormal things most of my life, so I felt right at home. At the time, I was living with my girlfriend, who'd also become my future ex-wife. Save that story for a rainy day. But just a little backstory, we met at work. I have to admit, she caught my eye immediately, and one thing led to another. You know how that goes. But at the time, life was pretty good. I was working hard, trying to get promoted with hopes and dreams of buying my first home someday. My girlfriend was much younger than me and still in college. She was a student athlete and played volleyball. She was super talented and a beast on the court. Now, I had already been living in this complex for about a year when my girlfriend moved in with me. And from the very beginning, she mentioned she felt a coldness in the apartment. I don't mean from poor insulation, but she said the apartment feels like it had a dark presence or something. Now, I already knew that, but I never said anything about it. I don't think I had told her my history of paranormal experiences yet. And at the time, I was working early mornings at 2 a.m. These were the worst 2 years of my life, working that shift, by the way. But I got up, showered, packed my lunch, kissed my girl goodbye, and headed out for work. And while driving to work, I received a text message from my girlfriend telling me to have a good day at work. When I got to work, I already knew it was going to be a rough night. I was running the overnight stock team. It was a huge truck. Fuck. So I got the team started and went to make a pot of coffee because I was gonna need it. A few hours later, my phone started ringing. Like, who the hell's calling me at 4:23 a.m.? I pulled the phone out of my pocket and I noticed it was my girlfriend. I immediately knew something was wrong. And I walked towards somewhere with a little more privacy. I answered the phone. Before I even said hello, she blurts out, "The fucking bed is shaking." Confused, I say, "What do you mean the bed is shaking?" It started off very subtle, but enough to wake her up. She instantly thought it was an earthquake. After all, we live in California. So she sat up in bed, and the shaking stopped briefly. Long enough for her to think maybe she was dreaming. And as she laid back down, the bed violently started shaking so hard she could feel the legs being lifted up off the ground and slammed back down. She said it went on for about 20 seconds, and she was so terrified she couldn't speak or she couldn't scream. The moment the bed stopped shaking is when she called me frantically. She told me, "You need to come home now." I can't come home now. But I'll wait until the next manager comes in and then I'll tell them that I have a family emergency or something. "No, please come home now." I just tried to calm her and reassure her. So I said, turn on the TV in the bedroom, the bathroom light near the bedroom, and if you're brave enough, turn on the lights in the living room and just stay in the bedroom. Of course, she just begged me to come home. I let her know that if she did this, it should stop it long enough for me to get home. Confused, my girlfriend asked, "How do you know this?" "I'll explain later when I get home." At 7 o'clock, the next manager came in and I told him some BS story that my girlfriend was extremely sick and I needed to go home. And so I just left. And when I got home, she ran from the bedroom trembling. And for the first time in my life, I thought, oh, this is how other people react to this stuff. In pure terror. But because I've experienced it my entire life, it doesn't affect me like that. I hugged her and held her for about 10 minutes while she cried. And when she calmed down, I asked her to go grab us some donuts and coffee. She looked at me like I was crazy and asked, "Why?" I looked her straight in her eyes and said, "Because I need to ask the spirit to leave." "What?" she said. "Your fear is feeding it right now, and that's what it wants. Whatever's been here is now comfortable enough to make itself known to you. So if you just grab some coffee and donuts, I'll take care of it." And so she left. I had picked up a method along the way of handling situations like this. I just never actually did it. A few years ago, I worked with someone who noticed that I could see and feel paranormal stuff, and she told me that I have a lot of white light, and that this white light is like a flashlight in a dark tunnel, almost like a beacon for spirits who are lost or those who want to torment. And this coworker told me something to remember and to use it if I ever feel in danger or threatened by a spirit. And so I stood in the middle of the apartment and recited the phrase she taught me. "You were not welcome, nor were you invited into this home. Take some of my white light and find your way to heaven. You're not welcome here, and it's time for you to leave." I repeated this over and over as I began saging the apartment, which honestly, I've never done before. And every 5 minutes, I'd also add a personal prayer. So my girlfriend came home in about 20 minutes, and when she walked in, she noticed the apartment felt lighter. She bombarded me with questions like, how did I know to keep the TV on? How did I know to sage the apartment? And I finally just told her the truth. That since I was 8 years old, I've experienced paranormal things. And whatever was here was not here because of us, but more likely one of the other apartments, but became attached to her for whatever reason. But it's gone now. She just hugged me and said thank you. And I continued living in that apartment until about 2013. I never told her, but that experience helped me realize that no matter where I live, they would follow. What would you do if your bed started shaking like in the movie Exorcist? You know, while writing this episode, there was one thing I couldn't fully explain, and that's how the fear in her voice scared me to the core. It was that deep-rooted fear that she was begging me to come home. It still haunts me. That in itself was really scary. And I often wonder if that apartment had anything to do with how our relationship imploded and we eventually divorced. I started saging more and more often, but like many people will tell you, it only works for a while, and the activity eventually returned. Story number 2. Now here's one more story I did want to share that happened a few months prior to this previous story. Had almost forgot about it until I was actually writing the shaking bed story. There was a night that I was home alone and didn't work the next day. My girlfriend had a volleyball tournament and wouldn't be home until later on, and because of my early shift, I just wanted to go home. I didn't want to go to the game. And so I came home, warmed up some leftover chicken, grabbed a Pepsi, turned the TV on. And I'm not gonna lie, I loved that Pepsi back then. Probably drank 2 to 3 cans a night. This was over 18 years ago, so spare me your lecture about how unhealthy that was. I know. I don't drink soda anymore, so relax. So after eating and watching TV for a few hours, I was ready for bed. I tossed my plate into the sink, and my 2 empty Pepsi cans, I put it on the side of the sink next to the other empty cans from the night before. And I told myself that I'd toss them in the recycling bin tomorrow morning. I knocked out around 9:30 p.m. and about 10:30 p.m., I heard some noise in the kitchen. It actually sounded like dishes in the dish rack were clinking or something. Assuming it was my girlfriend coming home after her game, I got up to give her a hug and ask her how the game went. But when I got up, I noticed none of the lights were turned on in the apartment. It was pitch black. So I flicked on the living room light and no one was there. I checked the kitchen and no one. I walked back into the room and checked my phone and saw a text from my girlfriend from just a few minutes ago saying she was on her way home. I felt my heart start to beat faster. That predictable sign that something was about to happen, and then I heard it. All the empty Pepsi cans being smacked into the sink. You might be asking, how did I know they were smacked? Because when I was a kid, I used to stack them up like a pyramid and then throw tennis balls at them to knock them down. And that's exactly what it sounded like. Not like they fell over, but were smacked and flew into the sink. So I jumped out of bed knowing something strange was going on and rushed into the kitchen. I saw all of the cans in the kitchen sink. My first thought was maybe a mouse or something, but I couldn't wrap my head around how a mouse would knock over all of those cans at the same time. But I told myself I'd buy some mouse traps just in case and look for droppings. The next day I went to Home Depot and got some traps. And guess what? I never caught a single mouse or found any droppings anywhere in the apartment. But I could tell the energy was shifting in the apartment, and something was definitely here. What do you guys think happened? Was it a mouse? Even though no droppings were ever found and the traps never caught anything? No fans were turned on that night? I think sometimes these spirits began trying to assert themselves in benign ways and then eventually escalate it to more and more frightful ways. And maybe if I had started saging earlier, it wouldn't have escalated to the bed shaking like that. Honestly, I don't really know. But thanks for listening to another episode of the Raker'z Dozen, a true paranormal story podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a review on the podcast so more and more people who love the paranormal can find the show. I appreciate you. Stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. You won't want to miss them. Thanks for tuning in and taking this trip down this paranormal plane.